The banquet hall was filled with the low hum of laughter and the clinking of glasses. Medals glimmered under the warm light, and every man in uniform had stories carved into his face, stories of courage, loss, and brotherhood. Yet, amid the decorated heroes, one woman sat quietly at the back table, her eyes fixed on the folded flag resting on her lap. No one knew her name. To most, she was just another face, perhaps a widow, perhaps a guest. But that night, the silence around her would soon command every soul in that room to rise. It began when Admiral Hayes took the podium, his voice steady but tinged with reverence. "Tonight," he said, "we honor those who served with valor, and one who gave more than we can measure." A murmur rippled through the crowd as he gestured toward the woman in the corner. She asked not to be named, but I can't let her story remain hidden any longer. The chatter died. Every eye turned toward her, and every breath seemed to pause in anticipation. Her name, the Admiral continued, was Emily Cross. The room fell silent. Some shifted uncomfortably, searching their memories. Then realization dawned on a few faces, the kind that comes from hearing a ghost's name. "Lieutenant Commander Cross," the Admiral said softly, "served alongside some of the men in this very room." Heads turned, eyes widened. She led the reconnaissance team that saved SEAL Team 9 when communications failed deep in hostile territory. And she did it alone. The men who had been laughing moments ago now stared in disbelief. They remembered the mission. They remembered the radio silence. But they never knew who had saved them. Never knew the woman who risked everything from behind enemy lines. Emily didn't lift her head. Her fingers traced the edges of the flag, the same one folded over her brother's coffin years ago. When the Admiral asked her to stand, she hesitated, then rose quietly. The room, filled with hardened warriors, seemed to shrink around her. Her uniform was plain, her medals few, but her eyes carried the weight of 1,000 untold battles. "I wasn't supposed to be there," she said softly. "My brother was. When his team went dark, I broke orders to bring them home." There was no pride in her tone, only the calm of someone who had long made peace with sacrifice. She spoke of the night she crawled through mud and gunfire, how she dragged 2 wounded SEALs to safety, how she stayed behind to call in air support with a dying signal. "I didn't think I'd make it," she said, "but I knew they had families waiting, and that was enough." The silence that followed was heavier than any applause could have been. A single tear rolled down a scarred soldier's cheek. One by one, the men began to rise. No command was given. No signal passed. But every SEAL in the room stood to attention. Some saluted. Some simply placed a hand over their heart. Emily blinked rapidly, her composure wavering as the respect she had never sought filled the air like a rising tide. Admiral Hayes stepped down from the stage and handed her a small box. Inside was a medal, one that had been approved years ago but never delivered, lost in bureaucratic fog. "This was meant for you," he said, "for courage under fire and service beyond duty." She took it. Not for herself, but for her brother, for the men who hadn't made it home, for every silent hero whose name the world never learned. The crowd broke into applause, not the kind that comes from ceremony, but the kind that comes from awakening. Every man and woman in that hall knew they were in the presence of something sacred. Emily smiled faintly and whispered, "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because that's what family does." And as the evening drew to a close, the folded flag remained in her hands, a reminder of what honor truly means. Because sometimes heroes don't wear capes or demand attention. Sometimes they sit quietly in the back of the room until truth itself demands they be seen. If you believe courage still lives among us, share their stories. Honor the unseen. Because the world needs to remember that not all heroes have names, but every act of sacrifice deserves to be known.